UConn fans should be very, very excited. And there's a lot of reasons why you should be very, very excited for this game. One, Danny Hurley, to me, out of both coaches, I'm not taking shots at anything that we've seen so far. May has been sensational. And there are a lot of people that were predicting that May was going to take, if he wins the national championship with Michigan, take that North Carolina job and run. But stories coming out over the last 24 hours is he's not taking the job. He's not even interviewing for the job. He's staying with Michigan unless somebody else offers him a job. Hey, maybe one of these NBA teams, because it seems like the Lakers might be looking for a new coach at the end of the season. But nevertheless, what Danny Hurley has done over the last couple of years has been absolutely remarkable. And I'm not a UConn fan. I do root for St. John's and Hofstra, all these New York teams. There's nobody here on Long Island that really stands out. I mean, Stony Brook's made the tournament how many times over the last 10 years? 2? So Stony Brook is not a great program. But Hofstra, Speedy Claxton, I was rooting for them. They get knocked out by Alabama. And now you look at St. John's. We were rooting for St. John's, even though they got knocked out by Duke in the second half when they had a 1-point lead going into the first half. UConn is the only thing that really stands up for the Tri-State. Now, I'll say this about Long Island. There's a lot of non-UConn fans here in Long Island. Even if they're the Big East, they root for Villanova over UConn. And the Big East has been very, very good. If you think about the teams that we have seen over the last couple of years, Villanova has won multiple national championships. UConn, that's won multiple championships. St. John's has gotten better with Pitino and over the last couple of years. The Big East has really been good. If you want to look at divisions or conferences, I would say the Big East in the last 10 years has been as good as anybody. That says a lot about how they're transitioning conferences and what is the SEC, what is the Big 12 or the Pac-12 or the Big 10, whatever you call these conferences now. We used to think that they were going to move these conferences into 2 conferences. But Danny Hurley has been remarkable. He has been sensational. And anybody that takes shots at him because of his personality, what he does on and off the basketball court, who he points at, what he did to Zach Edey, what he does in the game, headbutting at referees, yelling at coaches on the other side of the court. We've seen it all with Danny Hurley. He's the Bobby Knight of these days of basketball. You love it. You love that enthusiasm. You love the purpose of who he is, what he sticks up for. And he really does believe he is the best coach in college basketball. Maybe the best coach in all of basketball. But when we watched that game, and I'll say this, I did not believe Illinois at any point. I'm not sure what Vegas had or what was the points or what was the...
It was 1.5, but it was fluctuating.
It was Illinois, right? They had Illinois winning the game. Mm-hmm. I did not think Illinois had any chance in this game. One, Illinois has never been here before. And the last time they were here was years and years ago if they were. They were never in this position as Danny Hurley has done it so gracefully over the last couple of years and done it at such a high level with different teams. These aren't the same players. It's not the same portal players that he's brought in, the same recruiting class that he brought in. These are different players. They're running the same offense, the same defense, and that's what's remarkable. And you look at college basketball, usually they're one and done. It's not like that anymore with the NIL deals, the money that's being brought in. These players rather stay in college basketball than flee to the NBA and fail to be great players there. UConn has been fun to watch. And I said it when I looked at the way the bracket was set up, that UConn was destined to get to the Final Four. The way it was really set up with Duke. Duke was the only team that really stuck out to me that could have beaten UConn, that could have beaten and it was the number 1 seed and was as good as anybody throughout the season. What worried me about Duke was the injuries and consistency. I don't trust John Shire. I do trust Danny Hurley. Danny Hurley has done it enough. He's proven it time and time again that he could take any team to a national championship if he's put in the right position. If the bracket fell right. It doesn't always fall right with these teams. Look at them last year. The bracket didn't fall right for them. Who knocked them out? The national champion, right? It was Florida that knocked them out. So they lost against, eventually, the national champion Florida Gators. If they beat the Florida Gators, maybe they win 4 in a row. And I really do believe, and we'll get into what Michigan did, completely dominating against Arizona. It wasn't even close. I know Fish and I know Q loved Arizona throughout the tournament. Everybody had Arizona winning a national championship this year. Even Nith had Arizona winning the national championship because when you look at the talent stands. The offense and the great point guard play, everything. They stood out throughout the tournament and throughout the season where they were as dominant as any team. But it's UConn. Terrace Reed, who has been as good as any player on this UConn Huskies team throughout this tournament. Braylon Mullins, who has been Mr. Luck, because I'm not saying he was luck shooting, but this guy made one of the greatest shots we've ever seen, not just a UConn Huskies shoot, but in national championship or national bracket history. We've never seen anything like that. With 0.4 seconds left, he shoots almost a half-court three and sinks it with a swish and ends the Duke Blue Devils run again. But what UConn stands for is they play team defense. They rebound very, very well. They play team basketball throughout every single game. And even when they're down, they were down against Duke. They were down in a lot of these games in the first half. They found a way to scrap back. They're scrappy. And champions find a way to win, no matter how bad they're down. All you got to do is scrap 7, 6, 5, 4 points, play defense. And they've been sensational. There's really nothing to say about the UConn Huskies. And congratulations to Illinois. They had a great year. Their run was sensational. But when you have Caravan playing 35 minutes, he's one of their best players, if not their best player, overall player. He has not had a good tournament. 35 minutes, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block. You expect more from Caravan. Solo ball, he's been back and forth throughout the tournament. Braylon Mullins, who could be a first-round talent this year. Jaden Ross. But when you spread out your team offense and you're getting from all different parts of your team, including your bench, you're going to be very hard to beat. And they're a very good defensive team. Very underrated. Very underrated. Because when you get into the tournament, you play a different style of defense. You play more prevent. You smother teams, great offensive teams. That's what they did to Duke in the second half of that game. Duke had their way in the first half. And what did Danny Hurley do going into the first half? He changed up the defense. He played a different style of defense. And that's the thing about a lot of these coaches. If you're a great coach, if it doesn't work, if you play a zone, you play man-to-man, you find ways that is going to defeat your opponent. No matter if you played that defense all season long or you're transitioning that way in that particular game. That's what stands for a good team. Say whatever you want about UConn. And everybody challenges Danny Hurley. Throughout the year, Danny Hurley has been very highly spoken. He doesn't like anybody. He knows or he believes he's the greatest of all time. It doesn't matter what he says. All he has to do is put up and shut up. But he puts up and he never shuts up. And that's something. That's, to me, what I love about Danny Hurley. Bobby Knight wasn't a guy that I loved. I couldn't stand Bobby Knight when he coached the Indiana Hoosiers. Couldn't stand him. He was throwing chairs on the court, dancing around, yelling at referees, kicking the ball out to the fans. We've seen so many things Bobby Knight do. Danny Hurley's worse. Danny Hurley, if he could, he'd smack the hell out of everybody. He'd smack the hell out of his own team and smack the hell out of the coach or the coaching staff on the other team. He doesn't give a crap. He goes out there, he teaches, and he trains these guys to be killers. And that's what they are. Michigan, to me, is the better team. They're the better team. There's no argument to that. They beat a good Arizona team. And Michigan can spread out their offense as good as anybody. If you think about what they bring to the table, it's remarkable. Lendenborg is a great player. Played 15 minutes, 11 points, 3 rebounds, couple of steals, 1 steal. This guy is a great player. Merez Johnson, 10 points, 24 minutes, 7 rebounds. Ademara, 26 points, 9 rebounds. Burnett, 21 minutes, 6 points, 4 rebounds. They spread out their offense so very well. Every one of this team can score. Even on their bench, Trey McKinney. He played 27 minutes off the bench. Gave you 16 points and 3 rebounds. They're so good offensively. Every one of these guys can shoot. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is something UConn didn't see in this tournament. That's what makes Michigan so very dangerous. They only lost 3 games this year. They were 36-3. They played a Wildcat team that was just as good as them. And what they did to the Wildcats early in the game is they smothered them offensively. The Wildcats cannot shoot. That has been their problem all season long. And what Arizona couldn't do, what they did to everybody, including Purdue, especially in the second half of the game, is they completely dominated the paint. They got into the paint and they dominated. Pete was good. He played 31 minutes. He gave you 16 points and 11 rebounds. But everybody else, Braden Burries, who everybody thinks is a top 5, maybe a top 10 pick this year in this year's draft, he played 38 minutes, only gave you 13 points. Bradley, who's hot and cold, you don't know what Bradley's going to come up and show up in a game. Jaden Bradley, who could be an early first-round draft pick, gave you 13 points and only 1 rebound. Every one of these guys, they couldn't do enough against a Michigan team that was just absolutely dominant. And it wasn't just the first half. It was the second half. They smothered them in the second half. And Michigan's defense quietly showed you why they're the best overall team in this tournament. It took them a while to figure things out. Throughout the year, even though they were 36-3, there were games that you wonder what Michigan was going to show up. If they were going to be the Michigan Wolverine team that some people thought was going to be a national championship dynasty this year, a team that was going to win a championship since 2018, which they didn't do. And now you look at where Michigan is and what Michigan has compared to UConn, they're by far the better team. I don't think you can argue that. They're definitely better than UConn. But the better team doesn't always win. We've seen this before. In professional sports, college sports, the better team doesn't always win. And that's why I think Dan Hurley has the advantage, because he's been in this situation before. He's played great teams. Look at Zach Edey and Purdue. The Boilermakers, I wouldn't say were a favorite to beat in UConn, because they weren't. But to me, throughout that year, they were the best team in the tournament. And they really, at the last 2 weeks of the season, they were better than UConn. And the bracket fell right for Purdue, and that's why they went all the way to the national championship. And I really thought it was going to be Purdue and UConn again this year. But Arizona choked. Michigan played at a high level, and Michigan is as dangerous as any team UConn has played throughout this tournament. UConn pretty much, besides the Duke game, especially the second half, they dominated every second half. And that's the thing about Danny Hurley that I think is so impressive. This man, down or up, he always finds a way to get his team to believe. His energy, his charisma, his craziness on the sidelines, dancing around, taking off his coat. I mean, there's nobody like this guy. If I was an NBA team right now, and if he wins a national champion, he has nothing else to prove. Nothing else to prove in college at all. 3 and 4 years? Wooden's the only coach has ever done this before.
Yeah, you got to break that one up.
I'm reaching out to his agent. I'm reaching out to Danny Hurley and finding whatever I have to do to get this guy to coach my team, because there's nothing else he needs to do.